Okay. See you.
Thanks.
You're right. You do have a lot of good.
Yes.
Good things.
Yeah, we don't have, and it's 4:30, I mean, 5:30, there's like a 4:30.
No, you said nothing.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay, I'm losing it.
All right, it's 5:32. We will call the Public Works, Properties, and Sustainability Committee to order. We have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted. The public's appearances and opportunity to speak. There's no one apparently in the room. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak? It doesn't look like it. So we will move to number 4, discuss and consider the minutes from the Public Works, Properties, Sustainability Committee meeting of September 10th, 2025.
I move approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. We'll move to number 5, new business update on the 2025 Whistler Pacer ratings.
So last time we met in September, staff and I were working through the 2025 Pacer ratings. So yearly we have an update for our street mileage. Every 2 years we have to go through and reevaluate the entire village and street conditions. Given that both me and my street superintendent are new within the last year and a half, we drove them all. So included in the packet was an overall map, a condition frequency report, kind of the Pacer rating system that we went off of that is provided from WISDOT. And you can see we have a lot of 3s and 4s, which is in the yellow on the attached map. If you look at the yellow that is associated with the 10-year capital improvements plan in terms of future street pulverizations, those will align very closely. And then blue is those 5s and 6s. So those are a little further out for planned pulverization and reconstruction. And then obviously 7, 8, 9, and 10 are our recently reconstructed streets that are in solid condition. Those 7, 8s are ones that we look at crack filling, kind of just to prolong the maintenance of the streets. any questions on PACER ratings.
Do you guys do the multi-use paths too, or is that a separate
We,
thing?
we do not have to do the multi-use paths, and it's not something that we did as part of that, but it's something that I could start looking into, yes.
I would like that. personally, but- Any other questions or comments? Okay, then we can move to capacity and safety on village streets for staff direction.
Let me stop sharing this. So there has been some discussions regarding kind of the flow, capacity, and our safety on our village streets in general. Included in the packet, I included the radar stats that I have taken so far since I have started here at the various street locations that have been provided either by direction from this committee or that have been resident feedback that I do get the occasional email saying, I think we have high traffic, we have high speeds through here, and so I put the traffic counter out. And also in collaboration with the police department. The police department's tracker doesn't do both directions, so their data is a little different than how ours is produced. Our data tracker collects both directions, so I'm actually able to get an average daily traffic, annual average daily traffic, an AADT, out of that section. So what I'm looking for is out of this committee on looking very specifically and coming up with a overall map on where we are most interested in traffic flows and kind of the volume of traffic. Looking forward, we will be doing the prioritization for 2026. Out of the 2025 prioritization, there was kind of discussions about where do kind of the intersection improvements look like for future discussion and future projects in that TAD New York Capital Improvement Plan. Just looking for direction on what this committee is most interested in related to traffic, any concerns specifically on that, and what you would like to see from me.
I guess the first thing I would think would be areas near schools, especially if they're going to go to consolidate the elementary schools, just so that we know where that is. And then, in commerce would probably be another one.
And I guess specifically, are we asking for, we're just identifying areas, and then what's the intent? Is to do further study? Or what are we going to do with these areas that we're designating?
So my intent to start out is that I would start looking at traffic volumes with our internal tracker. We did not currently budget anything for Strand to do a full-on traffic count, a full-on traffic study, looking and then discussing with Chief if there are crashes associated with that as well. I mean, all of these play into a fact on the safety of the intersection and what that looks like. But I think our first step is kind of collecting data on where it's believed or perceived that there is high volume traffic, and then using that data and speaking with our engineers on what can those streets, what can those intersections handle.
I would just, if you can clarify for the public, kind of when you talk about the capacity of Highway N, what exactly does that mean? Because one of the things that I'd like to get to is, like, how do we reconcile capacity with congestion, for the public? Or if we're looking at data and we say this has the capacity to handle X number of vehicles, right? Like, how do we reconcile that with what people are experiencing when they drive it, right? So if you can kind of maybe talk to that a little bit.
Because I think, just to piggyback off that, I think when you guys are talking traffic, you're talking, can the road handle the cars? When people who live in neighborhoods are talking traffic, they're wondering, how long is my commute going to be? So if we can just sort of figure out how to.
Mm-hmm. So it's a traffic sense. In the traffic world, they call it a level of service. And level of service means different things at different places. There's a level of service of a corridor, as you're traveling down a corridor and how it feels. But a lot of time it's applied directly to like an intersection. Like, how long do I have to wait at that intersection for a level of service? And the level of service is a national level of service that's generated by what is an average wait time. So when you pull it up, they give them, and I've talked about this a little bit before, of grades, almost so you can think of like A, B, C, D, E, all the way through F. And it gives you levels of seconds of delay. And you really don't try to like correct an intersection until it's at that like level of delay of like D. Once it gets D and beyond, then you start to think, well, we need to do something. And a lot of times it's not doing something at the total intersection, it's adding a right turn bay or adding a left turn bay. Where is that movement that you have to wait the longest? So it's really, the hard thing about traffic is the perception. What is the perception of delay? So you guys here may think you get in and there's some busy times and there's a lot of delay if you go from this intersection all the way up to the other Commerce intersection and then you leave and get on the interstate. But in reality of Dane County, that might not actually be that much delay. So it's a perception of the area too. If you were in Madison, that delay would be quite a bit more, right? That doesn't mean the road can't handle it. It just means that drivers' expectations have to change a little bit. So there's a little bit of a finite there of what can it handle and what the expectations are to drivers and how much you want to spend to change that expectation, right? To create more capacity, or instead of it being 2 lanes, we want people to get from point A to point B faster, so we should just make it all 4 lanes. Even though maybe it could handle the traffic the way it is, it's just gonna create another minute or 2 of delay of that commute, probably during more of the peak times of day. So it's not necessarily yes, this is when you should do something, no, this is when you should not. It's debatable, I guess, a little bit, if that makes sense, Paula.
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
Yeah, so like for instance, it was about 4:00. I was stopped at North Lawn and N, and so I just pulled out my phone just to record how
Yep.
long it took.
Yep.
And there were 2 cars in front of me, and it was 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yep.
Now, I'm glad I recorded it.
Yep.
It felt like forever, right?
Yep.
Trying to
it's when you get
turn.
frustrated, right? Because it delays beyond what your expectations are gonna
Right.
be.
And
right?
so, there's that expectation. How long should I have to wait, right? And I see a lot of urgency. So I drive to Summit in the morning, right?
Yep.
And I see a lot of people that come flying down the hill and going around because they're racing to get in that right lane to go ahead of the roundabout lane to get on the interstate.
Yep.
And so that's where I get concerned that accidents have happened or will happen because of
Right.
that kind of perceived, oh, this is taking forever.
Right.
And so I'm trying to find a way for us to kind of try to measure that and fix for that, especially in a proactive sense before Amazon opens.
Yep.
And we know that there's going to be a 20% increase from their traffic study.
Yep.
So like, that's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm
Right.
not sure the best way to go about that, but that's
Right.
why I'm wanting to have these conversations.
Yeah, these are good conversations. And yes, you will experience some of that once in a while. So also when you think of delay, it's your average delay. So let's say you did that movement 7 times. You can't just base it on 1 time. But it's good that you took a recording. But then they average that over 7 times. What if you get there and it only took you 15 seconds because you hit the light perfect? So then that's the average, actually. That averages in over a week, 2-week period of what is your really average. And is it under a minute? If it is, then there probably is really no worry. But there's sometimes where you might have to wait even a light cycle, where you get there and you don't make the light cycle and you go, oh my God, and
There was no light there.
yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I know,
but yeah,
yeah. Or the stop sign and try to turn out, but then maybe there's something needed there, right? So that's a good location to maybe study and look at. But I was talking to Kyla about this a little bit, and I get the concern because you guys are growing, and this is, as a community grows, traffic and this kind of conversation does happen, and it's good conversation. The hard part, though, is finding the resources and the time and maybe the dollars to study everything. So like when Kyla was asking, like, where are the locations or where are the spots that we want to look at, and then start in those areas and then kind of expand outward. It's hard to do like an overall village-wide search. It's easier if you can try to pinpoint some things and try to focus in on where you guys think they are. And that takes a little bit of time to try to figure out. But does that make sense?
I think so.
One could argue that if you did a village-wide
Yeah.
analysis, you would identify those pain points and only have to look at those in the future.
Maybe, depending on where development happens, but yes.
And then
Yeah.
when new developments happen, those are
Yeah.
kind of after reanalysis,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea of just collecting the data.
Yeah.
Because that's informed decision-making. If wait times on end get longer, it's great to know that. This village board, this committee doesn't have to do anything about it. But we can address the concern and say, we think wait times are getting longer. Yes, they are. We have data to support that. We just don't know of a good solution for it, or it's too expensive right now, or we're waiting, like.
Or what's
Don't-
acceptable.
Right, and
Right, yeah, you gotta weigh that option.
that
right?
shows
Yeah.
everybody that we're informed
Yeah.
and we're thinking ahead.
Yep.
And we just don't think it's necessary to do anything yet, right?
Yep.
But that,
Yep.
you can't just say, no,
Yep.
we don't know, or we don't know. That doesn't
Yeah.
help anything,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
So the data collection, I just think is a
Yeah.
huge first step.
And Kyla can do some of that. I think some of this, we talked about that. What can you do on your own to start building your data a little bit that you have in-house and the resources that you have? To truly understand, so Kyla's, the stuff that she has, she can put, she can count traffic as it's coming by, but she doesn't have stuff that's actually counting delay and like at lights and stuff. So that's where, if we have some of these intersections, then those require you to go out and actually count traffic or monitor traffic, or put cameras up and watch traffic over like a 3-day period that's actually counting too, and then get those averages that Paul is talking about.
But even some like some of this stuff, like there is intersections that are in the 800-900s, some in the 500s that
Yep.
we're just getting overall, right?
Yep.
And so if a resident comes to you and said, we think we have really high traffic, you can
Yep.
say, well, actually, we've studied that recently. You're not the highest, so you're
Yeah,
not our
right,
highest priority,
right,
and right?
right,
And they go, well, bummer, but that's, so we're focusing on the higher value
Yeah.
ones, higher traffic ones, right? And now you can actually say that and back it up,
Mhm.
right? Can I ask what a couple of specific
Yeah,
intersections?
yeah.
Damascus near London, that's a dead end subdivision, am I correct? That has like a ton of traffic? Why?
It's all
Is
being
that-
built.
That's all the construction traffic
There's a
going
lot
through,
of
right?
construction traffic, yep.
Aren't they going through the bus road?
They are advocated to, but it's not something that we monitor. If you do look over the past couple
Okay.
years at the traffic, it has decreased.
Okay. I was just wondering. Yeah, that one seemed really high for like not a through route or anything.
Mhm.
Just a side note to that, I did talk to Andrew Hamburg, and one of the things that happens is the contractors may not be passing along that
Yeah.
special road to
Mhm.
the subcontractors, which is
Yeah.
why they're coming through the neighborhoods.
Yeah, some of the heavy traffic might be taking that, but
Correct.
think of your plumbers, your electricians, or
Yeah.
anybody else, and they're flying,
Okay.
they're back and forth with stuff all day long sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So they do generate quite a few trips
Mm-hmm.
on their end.
And then I'm sorry, I will have to highlight my favorite intersection, landmark. I just thought it was very interesting when you did the Melissa between Michelle and Matt Pass
Mm-hmm.
to see how many people of those around 800 that are passing through
Mhm.
are actually turning into the subdivision, and it's
Mhm.
like what 10, maybe 20%.
Yep.
Yep.
Just again, data showing this is a cut through,
Yep.
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Village board, this committee can decide, say, we're perfectly fine with that, but I don't think we can deny cut through is happening, and then we can take it from there, so.
I would agree with Chris. So I guess my first priority would be Highway N by Cottage Grove School. And then also N in Commerce, as Chris said. I from a different lens, I also see this right now, and obviously we're doing a fire study on this, but, response times at kind of peak times, or, for instance, my husband worked an overnight shift at the hospital in Janesville Sunday night and came home Monday morning, and he's like, what is going on? Traffic is backed up to Bryn Mawr. And there was something happening at the Catholic church and then the school. So it was like double traffic that morning. So I think that area is really big. So if we just had to pick a couple to start with, I'd say those.
I think it's probably fair to say that, if it's not in use and we'd like it up, studying pretty much any intersection along Highway N, starting with the more major ones, and I would agree with intersections along Cottage Grove Road for the same thought process.
Yeah, your two main county roads, or your main and Cottage Grove Road, and the major intersections that connect to them would probably be your most congested points, just in reality sense. Your other roads that are residential, some of them act as collectors and have a little more traffic, but I tend to see more communities not so much worried about capacity there, but speeds and more pedestrian safety and more of those things that they start to focus on when they get on a lot of the other residential streets. And that's maybe a different conversation than what we're talking about. Right now, we're talking a little more about capacity and the ability of roads to handle it and intersections to handle capacity. And then the side thing and they're kind of a little bit apart, is the pedestrian and speed safety that you want to have everywhere, right? And I know this committee or others have brought that part of it up too. They can be combined, but they can be very separate also as well. So, I don't know if we want to think about that at all. Monona, and I passed it to you, the city of Monona had, it might have been 10, 15 years ago now, and Mike, I don't know if you know, or maybe Chris does. He might have been part of some of that, but they passed some sort of a residential traffic management program that allows residents, I think they were having a lot of these concerns of just safety, bikes, peds. They don't have a lot of sidewalks, so a lot of people are walking on the road in Monona. And traffic speeds were a big issue. And they have this kind of program, and I have it up on my screen right now, but it's about 9 or 10 pages. And what it does, it allows the community members in the area to voice their concerns. So they apply, they say, hey, we have a concern, and they kind of create within their neighborhood, they get together and say, yeah, this is a concern. What is the concern? And they come up with this like preliminary plan and final plan, and then it kind of gets rated based on points within the system. Like maybe they want some speed humps because of speed, or maybe they think the intersection should be tighter, or maybe they want stop signs at a specific location because they just feel the need of it there really is important to them. But it's the residents that kind of bring it forward. Doesn't always go, it doesn't always go all the way through, but it gives them kind of a voice and sounding board, and it also gives them guide rails on, does this make sense or not, to kind of start a little bit. And I forwarded it to you, Kyla. Maybe we can kind of forward it onto the group. Again, I don't know how much they use it, and I do know they have used it before, and I've done some projects there. McKenna would be an example. Winnequa would be an example. Mike, you know about both of those projects. Where we then have implemented some, because some of those neighborhoods had some concerns about speeds, where we implemented speed humps or some bump outs or some other treatment that try to reduce speed based off of some of that other input that they were getting. But it's a little bit more of a residential proactive approach.
We did have the bike ped issue map.
Yep.
Is that active still, or it's kind of similar to that?
That's a really good question.
I have
I'll
it
have
up,
to
but I
look
never
into
used it.
that.
Okay. But, I mean, what Josh was talking about seems a little more comprehensive than that, but I think that's a good idea.
I will pass it on. I'll forward it on to this committee either later today or tomorrow for you guys to take a look at it, and then it's something we can further discuss.
And it's a little older. It might be like 15, 20 years old now. So some of the stuff, like later, it gives you traffic calming devices and things that you could use in different things. Those maybe could be updated at this point because there's probably newer and better ideas out there. But it's still a pretty good document. I think it's a good start if you want to think of something in that regard. I'm trying to think of traffic calming and, all around residential streets and things that you might consider.
Any other discussion on item 5B? Otherwise, we can move to 5C, discuss and consider message board request from Monona Grove HOSA.
So per our message board policy, all message board requests are to come to Public Works for your guys' review and approval before they are on the message board. The reason you haven't seen any message board requests, and at least my time that's being here, is every message board request has always been one that is longstanding. So it's not one that I have brought back. Message board policy was put in place by Brian Peterson when he was here. This is a different type of message board request. Typically, when we see them for community events, the car show, the parade. This one is very specific for diabetes awareness. It kind of sets a more broad option of what we can and what we would allow to be on the message boards. So that would be for your guys' discussion if you are interested in allowing this to be on the message boards.
Shouldn't it somehow relate to traffic? Like, isn't that kind of the concept? Like, no, not necessarily.
No, we kind of allowed it when Brian was here. We talked about, promoting community events is a worthwhile use of the message boards without becoming a distraction to people traveling the roadways. At that time, when we were working on that policy, we were pretty clear, although it was never necessarily written, that it was, community-based events or a community worthwhile notification, i.e., roadwork's going to be starting or hydrant flushing, items
Mm-hmm.
like that. Which is what they were originally utilized for entirely. We
Mm-hmm.
felt it was worthwhile to get the okay out there about community events. I agree that this one definitely sets a precedent that I would worry a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about in terms of conveying people's, regardless of how positive it is still a personal opinion or I don't know how to describe it best, but it's not a community event. I guess for that reason, I'd be not in favor. I'd try to keep it in my mind to community-based events, but I'm open to other suggestions.
I'm a little torn on this because my wife's a type 1 diabetic, but I kind of tend to agree that it's not quite what we're looking for. It's events. Like if this was for like a run or a fundraiser or something, I could see it, but it's kind of just a message.
Right, so there is no event tied to this, correct? No
No.
fundraiser, no anything?
No. It's a local high school student who's lived in the village and always sees the message boards and is a part of this organization and wanted to get the message out.
So more than likely, so HOSA is the Health Occupation Students of America, and they probably are doing a competition to raise awareness about a particular issue. My daughter competed in this last year, and so, they have to do a certain degree of marketing and different things for the competition. So I'm guessing it's a piece of that. So it's smart and creative, but I agree. And I guess I was under the assumption that, one of the reasons we would use a message board for community events is for like traffic concerns, right? Like, oh, this week is the Fireman's Festival Parade. Like, we're going to close down N. So I feel like this gets further away from that notion. And then I also worry about saturating that board for when we do need to put out very important messages about N being closed or something of that nature. So I would say no as well.
Do we need an official no vote or?
The majority I'm gathering is no, so I will take that moving forward.
Well, let them know if they have an event coming up,
I will most definitely.
And I would say if you feel the need to further clarify on the website or wherever you have this information, or
Yep.
if there's a form that you hand out when they want to apply, I'm in favor of you just, what we talked about this evening. If
Okay.
it's a community-based event,
Perfect.
we're okay moving forward. But outside of that, I think we would be a no.
Perfect. I will go ahead and update that. It's the first request I've gotten, so didn't want to make any assumptions for this committee.
Anything else from anybody? If not, we'll move to 6, Director's Report.
Couple items on the director's side. We have a new employee that started on December 1st. He's actually a local. He lives in Cottage Grove. He will be filling Larry Cooper's position, who will be retiring at the end of January. So we had some overlap to allow both people to continue working. Larry will have, when he retires, he will have been with the village for 20 years. So a longtime resident and employee here, and we're very thankful for his service. Some other updates are sidewalk replacement and trip hazard maintenance. At the end of fall, we completed 87 sidewalk panels internally that we were able to remove and replace, which is awesome. We also had Mac Construction do our grinding this year. In the past, we have had Safe Step. Mac Construction saved us half of the money that Safe Step had done in the past. We internally went and marked all of the locations for where we were grinding. When we had Safe Step do, they would look at the village in certain locations and then mark them. And ultimately, when you get a picture for a 1/16 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch, it's really hard to tell if that's actually a trip hazard. So staff would have to go back out and double check if it is a trip hazard. So we kind of eliminated that step. I am still working through the stop sign policy. I know we talked about that earlier this summer. It's kind of looping into this official traffic map update that's related to our ordinances, and they all go hand in hand, and it's a big task. So I'm hoping to have these here into the new year. Obviously, there's snow on the ground. We have started our snow operations at full force. Staff have been working diligently on that. As a reminder, the updated snow policy is located on our website. On the engineering side, we have West Lawns, Fifth Estates. Everything is substantially completed there. There's just a few remaining punch list items. For Quarry Ridge, the last phase, they have a few punch list items left as well. And then we're working on that final extension of School Road to the eastern boundary that as of this afternoon, I had an email that they're potentially looking to do that in the spring. The Amazon facility, all the public utility construction is completed. Per the developer, we are potentially getting plans here at the end of the year, beginning of January for county, state, and then also village review. Once those plans have been received by us and both myself and Strand have taken a look at them, we'll plan to update the Public Works Commission as well as Village Board as we did earlier this year. Hayday Cottage Grove, all of the utilities have been completed, and Fundamental Way, which is the cul-de-sac, has been completed and has been substantially complete. So we're going ahead and move forward with plowing those items, plowing that street. 2025 streets project is done. It's substantially complete. As Chris asked, the beautiful orange railing, it's orange, it's like bright orange, it's like Chris's jacket orange, high-vis orange, is not permanent. So it will be forthcoming. They had to build the retaining wall before they could measure for the railing to make sure it was the actual length. And the RFB is supposed to be in hopefully in January is what I keep being told. So I'm hopeful. And then last but not least, we are moving forward on the 2026 streets and pedestrian improvements as was approved in the budget. So that includes polarizations of Clearbrook, Terrace, Stoneheath, Nightingale, and Cottage Court. And then we will also be doing the missing links for the multi-use path along Bus and Cottage Grove Road. So all of those will still be forthcoming here in the upcoming months for plans and what those look like.
Can you,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. Can you comment at this time, the path in front of GDS, do the terrace trees that are there stay? Or do those all have to come down to put that path through there?
I don't know yet.
That's a hot topic. We don't know where the survey is.
I mean, we have collected survey, but I haven't actually laid it out in there.
Okay,
yet.
I didn't know how
The
far,
hard
I
part
didn't know
of-
how far along
The
you
hard
were,
part
so.
obviously is the ditch that is the back side of it and dealing with the ditch, the
Yeah, it would
road,
have to
and
be
the
an
trees.
improved section to really,
Yes, yeah. When you look just down it visually, it looks like those trees are in the wrong spot. Like, that's kind of where I want the path to go, so. We're gonna try to avoid them if we can, but,
okay.
yeah, it's a tough one.
To circle back on the 2025 streets project, streets and ped projects, the paint for the multi-use path where it hits the
Yes,
driveways, that
the
can be
green.
complete in the spring?
Yep, we're gonna do that internally.
Anything else?
A building came down.
The building did come down.
That's all I had. No. Are there any of the developments planned, or is it we just took it down proactively?
We just took it down proactively.
Okay.
The fire department used it, and then at the end of their training, they tore into the walls, and very unsafe to have openings into a building that we own.
Cool. Okay. And then that's how the utility project is ongoing or completed, right, to the former golf course, correct?
Yes, the sanitary sewer interceptor is still being in the works of being constructed. Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? Otherwise, we can move to future agenda items. Anybody have anything?
I think the plan that you talked about that Kyla's going to forward us, and I wonder, before you go further into your work on a stop sign policy, I wonder if those two things weave together somehow?
It's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
anticipating.
Okay.
Same thing with the official traffic map, because we previously only listed, I found our old traffic map from 2016, and we previously only listed locations with four-way stops, all-way stops, so four-way and three-way stops. All of our ordinances reference that. The official traffic map shows all stop sign locations, so working on collecting all stop sign locations is also a tedious activity.